as I said in my preview, I'm not currently convinced of Yasuke's inclusion as a character, or a protagonist rather, in AC Shadows. I upset some Assassin's Creed fans for saying that. They thought I was like trying to signal secretly to my fans that Yasuke is bad because of X, Y, and Z, and I was actually like hating on it, when if you watch the video, I feel like I explained pretty clearly why I feel that way. It's because Yasuke does not play like an assassin, and this is an Assassin's Creed game. So I don't really know why he's a playable character if he doesn't play like an assassin in the game. And he's supposedly like 50% of the gameplay content. I mean, it's like half Yasuke, half Nawe. You can choose to play with one over the other for the vast majority of the game, is my understanding, but I just don't know why we have a non-assassin as a protagonist in an Assassin's Creed game, you know? And it's not like we're doing something cool like, oh, he's actually, you know, it's like Rogue, where it's like, oh, it's a Templar thing and it's inverse. It's not even like that as far as I understand it. It's just fundamentally, he does not have the same abilities. He can't do parkour. He doesn't have a grapple hook like Nawe. He's not an assassin. And so that's why I just am not convinced of his inclusion as a protagonist. And I think that the reason that they chose to have him here was because they wanted to pursue the samurai gameplay style and then also the ninja gameplay style. That's what the creative director told me, at least. And they realized putting both of those in one character would just turn it into a Superman or Superwoman character that has all of these abilities, and it just wouldn't even feel right. It would be like, oh, it's a ninja samurai, and it would just start to, it would be tough to work. And let's be honest, people would just immediately go, oh, so it's Ghost of Tsushima. Joke's on them. People are doing that anyways, but still, you kind of, at least you see what I mean when they said they wanted to separate it. But either way, I just don't think it flows that well. But as you can see in this article from Games Radar, Assassin's Creed Shadows devs want you to know that Yasuke isn't an assassin, and that means he's not getting any of those classic assassin abilities. And this follows through in many, many ways. So in an interview with Games Radar Plus, Associate Game Director Simon Lemay-Comtois, I think. Simon, I did meet Simon. Simon's a really, really cool dude. He said, Yasuke is not an assassin because the narrative makes sense that he is not. Elsewhere, he said that a big part of Yasuke's importance in the plot of AC Shadows stems from his existence as an outsider, someone who can find his way into a distinctly Japanese story without having to wholly understand Japanese culture. They didn't reveal any story details, so we don't know exactly what will happen to Yasuke by the end of the story, but it's clear, or he's clear, quote, he works with fellow protagonist Nawe, but he's not an assassin, and he doesn't have to be. As a result, they followed up and asked some key questions. Does Yasuke have eagle vision? No. He needs to not have it so you can play different with him than you play with Nawe. He doesn't have a hidden blade. He doesn't have the ability to do parkour. He doesn't have the ability to use the grappling hook thing. He just simply is not an assassin. And so he plays like he's not an assassin, which on the one hand is a good thing. I appreciate that they didn't just make two of the same character. That's kind of what they did with Syndicate, if you played that, where it was Evie and Jacob Fry, and by the end of the game, they basically played the same. The idea was that Evie would be like the stealth character, Jacob would be the reckless melee character, but by the end of the game, they're pretty much the same. Like they're interchangeable. And so you're basically just picking whichever one you like the look of more, or you like the cosmetics more, or maybe you like their voice actor more or actress more. It's really minimal in terms of why you would choose one over the other when it comes to gameplay, because they're pretty much the same. With Yasuke and Nawe, they're trying very actively to make them play totally differently, which again, I appreciate, but I just still am not convinced that in this type of game, we needed two protagonists. Like going all the way back 4 or 5 years ago when they were first designing AC Shadows, the decision to have two protagonists, I can understand why they made the choice, but I'm like, you're making an Assassin's Creed game. Maybe we don't need to explore the samurai fantasy. Maybe just focus on the shinobi, just focus on the ninja stuff, and do that amazingly well. And as Joraptor pointed out, this, like, they pretty much took all the gameplay stuff that Eivor had and just cut it in half and split it between the two of them. Yasuke has like 3 core melee weapons available to him. It sounds like the expansion is going to add a new one. Nawe has 3 core melee weapons she's able to use and pick from, whereas in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, there were 6. So they've just kind of taken it and split it and spread the love. They each have their own little like skill trees and stuff. They have their own stuff that can help them specialize, but it really does seem like they're both half of a character. But Nawe is more of a full character that plays like an assassin, in this Assassin's Creed game. That's my impression after the preview, at least. So maybe when you play the whole game, Yasuke is much more compelling, and maybe there's more gameplay stuff I haven't seen. But like literally when you're out riding around the map, there is no reason to play as Yasuke other than there are occasional challenges for like archery where you go and shoot targets on horseback while riding. And those are only completable with Yasuke. At least those are the only ones we saw. And presumably there will be open world activities that are also exclusive to Nawe. But other than that, I have no idea why you would play with Yasuke when just exploring, other than maybe you just like his armor more, or maybe you just don't want to parkour in an Assassin's Creed game. But fundamentally, I mean, I think that this reflects one of the bigger frustrations and concerns I have with the game, is that it's built on the premise of you playing with two protagonists, kind of swapping between the two. But it's an Assassin's Creed game, and one of the characters literally is not an assassin. I don't care that it's Yasuke. I don't care that it's a former Jesuit slave. That has no bearing on this point. What I'm bringing up is that from a gameplay perspective, he's not an assassin, but he's a protagonist in an Assassin's Creed game. Make Yasuke a DLC? Yeah, I mean, I think you could do something like that. I think you could do a lot of stuff with him, or have him as a character you meet in the game. I think that could work. But one of my biggest frustrations with one of the recent trends within Assassin's Creed is that they often prioritize, like, I don't know, they make choices that don't fit with the theme. And with this, I'm like, you have the option to do a ninja in Japan. You did that with Nawe. Cool. But it feels like Nawe is half like fully developed because the other half of development time and resources you spent working on Yasuke. But I just don't know why anybody would play with Yasuke. And maybe that's just me not appreciating melee combat as much, but that's just kind of where I'm at. So we'll see. Again, there's a lot more to the game that we've not seen. There's a lot of questions I have with regard to side quests, open world exploration, and open world activities. I feel like there really has not been a lot showcased with those. There's been the one article they put out, but other than that, there's really just not much. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where the game ends up. But as of right now, honestly, I'm just not sure why anybody would play with Yasuke. Yeah, in Valhalla, you're a Viking, and it's the best-selling one, so who knows? Yeah, so Valhalla was also, this is the other kind of problem for Ubisoft with investors, is that Valhalla launched like in the middle of COVID. And as a result, everybody was at home. It was also like a Viking escapist entertainment kind of game, you know? Like it was not a questionable game from the outset. Like people were stupid hyped for it. Sorry, that was loud. The announcement trailer from 4 years ago has like over 9 million views. I remember it shot up millions and millions of views within the first like day. And I mean, this trailer was really good. It's a really beautiful cinematic trailer, but people saw this and immediately ate it up. Especially seeing the ship stuff. We were like, oh, and this is coming from the team that did Black Flag. Oh God, this looks amazing. I'm so here for it. So people were really excited to have a full open world, big budget game where you play as a Viking. Now I ended up not liking it for an ocean of reasons, but I understand there's a lot of people that did, and it did sell really well. It made over $1 billion in revenue. It was massive. It was a huge success for them. And they supported it for like 2-3 years after launch, basically treating it like an MMO that's single player. It was a very unique thing, really, really bizarre in the modern industry. But you can see like this did very, very well. But the question is, did it do really well just because of the type of game it was? Did it do really well because of the setting? Did it do really well because we were in COVID and people just were looking for stuff to play? Probably a mix of all of that stuff, probably. But I don't think there's any way where Shadows outperforms this because of all those extenuating circumstances that helped Valhalla explode and become the massive game that it was. And so investors are looking at it and they kind of are expecting you to outperform your last release. That's kind of what they want you to do. That's sort of the basic expectation in business, is that you do better this year than you did last year and the year before and the year before that. That's the like 101. And I just don't think that they will be able to, because this was such a unique game at such a unique time. But time will tell, I'm sure. But, you know, going back to this, Valhalla was also, of course, a marker of a sort of departure from old school Assassin's Creed inspirations and an approach towards more open world adventure. Odyssey was a huge step in that direction as well. Origins had much more Assassin's Creed stuff, which was the game that this team made before Valhalla, but it's just something I've been frustrated by. And at least like AC Shadows has Nawe, and that's a good thing. But it's also frustrating at the same time that they've gone and taken so many steps to build out Yasuke that I feel like Nawe, oh good, look at that. Oh wow. Nawe's also, I think, not received as much focus and attention as she could have if they gave all attention to her as a character instead of just spreading it across 2 characters. But this was massive. Isn't it crazy to think that this trailer released from Ubisoft just 4 years ago and everybody was hyping it up, super excited, and now it feels like if Ubisoft does literally anything, they'll get panned for it. You know, isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy how quickly things can shift? But that's part of what happens in the industry is every few years, the pendulum swings. EA is the target of rage one year, and then next year, Warner Brothers does something incredibly stupid, and then they get bashed, and then Ubisoft gets bashed, and it just always kind of swings between the different companies. And this year, it really is a lot of last year too, but this like 18-month period seems like Ubisoft is under all of it. He took my thing.